"Who will give me the wings of a dove?" asked King David. Why a dove? Because legend has it that during their long flight to Israel, all the birds become tired and ask to rest, and only the dove drives itself onward, wheeling and soaring, to find repose in the desert. And the legend concludes, "It is better to find shelter in the deserts of the land of Israel than in palaces elsewhere."
Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be landing at Ben Gurion International Airport in a few minutes. The weather's always clear, ground temperature 72 degrees Fahrenheit. That's 25 in centigrade. I wish you a pleasant stay in Israel. Finally in Israel, we're back to the landscapes we've known, have read about and dreamed about. Welcome to Israel. Welcome to the land of changing landscapes, of modern vitality and ancient tradition. Traditions like hospitality, the oldest tradition of all, forged here by the Bedouin in the desert, only a few miles from the modern metropolis. Hospitality is at the heart of the nomadic traditions, the same traditions from which the ancient children of Israel were born. A stranger is a king when the Bedouin is his host, guaranteeing safety, providing food, and a place to sleep. It was in a tent, much like this tent, that Abraham, the father of the three great religions, heard the voice of God, who sent him on the greatest test of all, to sacrifice his son, his beloved son Isaac, on Mount Moriah. But God stayed Abraham's hand, sending a ram to be sacrificed instead of Isaac. And out of the top of Mount Moriah grew the holy city, Jerusalem. After 7 centuries, King David faced the walled Jebusite town, ordered by the Lord to conquer the city, but to avoid all bloodshed. He solved the problem by leading his men through the secret tunnels of Gihon, the water supply of ancient Jerusalem. And he reached what the Bible calls the citadel of Zion, and made it his city, the city of David. In the Jerusalem of our day, the ancient tunnels have been reopened, and you can walk today through the very channel which after David was expanded by King Hezekiah to become the Siloam Tunnel. You can touch the very stones of the ancient citadel of Zion. Or pray at the site of the traditional tomb of David on Mount Zion. the centuries, the town grew into one of the great metropolitan cities of the ancient world, as can be seen in this model at the Holy Land Hotel. Palaces, theaters, and colosseums were built by King Herod to please his Roman patrons. Herod rebuilt Solomon's temple into the grandest of all his buildings. But Rome sought to expand its empire and marched on Judea, conquering Jerusalem with all the bloodshed that King David sought to avoid. And the flames that destroyed the temple in the year 70 were the fires that sent the Jewish people into exile, into 2,000 years of homeless wandering. Now, with the archaeological excavations in Jerusalem, you can touch the very stones that were once part of the walls of the temple. You can stand before the closed gates that were once the entry to the shrine. You can ascend the flight of stairs that led through the ancient stone gates to the temple. And walk to the Kotel, the western wall, the last remaining vestige of the Second Temple. The place to which Jews have turned for 2,000 years, with sorrow over their exile, with hope for redemption. Tradition says that a handwritten note with a request to God, stuffed into a crack of the wall, will reach its destination. And at night, says the legend, a white dove comes sailing down over the wall, cooing its sorrowful song, mourning the destruction of the Holy Temple.
What did a town in Judea look like in biblical days? Kfar HaHashmonaim was built here, on the plateau near the reconstructed ancient city of Modi'in. Here, time seems to have stood still since the days of the Hashmonaim dynasty in the kingdom of Judah. Here we can understand the shepherds squabbling about the well, and see the wheat being threshed and milled to prepare tasty matzot or pita bread, as in the days of the Exodus from Egypt. Here we can see the blacksmith beating the spears into pruning hooks. And here we can see a typical Jewish house in Bet Midrash, the schoolroom, where one student reads the text and two others expound on it. A Hasmonean village, an enjoyable visit to biblical times.
Jerusalem is a walled city, the home for believers in three great monotheistic religions. And to enter the soul of the city means entering through one of its gates. Damascus Gate, Suleiman the Great's passage to the north, the gate that leads to the market, where, as happens so often in this land of ancient and new, east meets west, the mysterious and the exotic, colors and smells that could only exist here in the Muslim bazaar.
A tin surface over glowing coals, and a ball of dough being pounded into its sides, what Jerusalemites call esh tanor pita bread. With its origins apparently in Iraq, it nevertheless has a uniquely Jerusalem flavor. Wrap it around falafel or a steak for a true taste of paradise.
Jaffa Gate, used by all. It's the main entrance to the old city of Jerusalem. In this tower, say the legends, King David strummed his harp, chanting his magnificent psalms. The bullet-scarred gate on Mount Zion leads to the Jewish quarter. Here, the Jewish community of old was renewed in our time, built upon and alongside the ancient remains that date back to the time of the temple. Once the legionnaires marched along this street, the Cardo, the most elegant of Jerusalem's shopping venues in Herod's time. Today, it's a mall full of shops and studios where Jewish craftsmen and artists, using ancient and modern motifs, display their work.
This ancient map is called the Map of Madaba, after the city of Madaba in the Kingdom of Jordan, where the original mosaics can still be seen. In the 6th century CE, Israel and Jerusalem were already the focus for Christian pilgrims. These original mosaics show the Jordan River with its fish, Lake Kinneret, the Sea of Galilee, and Jerusalem with a group of churches clustered around the Cardo thoroughfare. The sound of a shofar from the bowels of the earth, shacharit, the morning prayer at sunrise in the Sephardi synagogues of the Jewish quarter. They were built in the 16th century when a few families arrived in Jerusalem, the descendants of those expelled from Spain. The Ottoman Empire did not gladly suffer the building of synagogues that would compete with their mosques, and to commemorate the period in which Judaism went underground for fear of the Inquisition, these synagogues were built under the road. Perhaps, too, they had in mind the prayer in Psalms, the despairing cry of the supplicant. Out of the depths have I cried unto thee, O Lord. Lord, hear my voice. Let thine ears be attentive to the voice of my supplications. According to tradition, this synagogue was built on the site of Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai's Torah school, before the destruction of the temple.
All these cobbled streets lead to the heart of the Jewish quarter, the Western Wall. Through Dung Gate, one reaches the Temple Mount, the same Mount Moriah where Abraham faced God's test, and from where, say the Muslims, the Prophet Muhammad rose to heaven, riding his white horse. Here beneath this golden dome is the very rock, they say, on which Abraham stood, and from which Muhammad rose. And 4 times a day, Muslim believers come to face south toward their holy city of Mecca and to pray. The walls are covered with mosaics, interwoven with verses from the Holy Quran. Allah is eternal. Allah is merciful. Standing at the southern edge of the compound is the Al-Aqsa Mosque. built as a memorial to commemorate the famous night flight of the Prophet Muhammad from the main mosque in Mecca to this traditional site. For the Christians, St. Stephen's Gate, also known as the Lion's Gate, is special. Here on Palm Sunday, the believers follow in the footsteps of Jesus to the Holy Sepulchre. The legend says that God sent an angel with 10 measures of beauty for the world, and 9 of them fell upon Jerusalem. For the Jews, these closed gates of mercy are the place through which the Messiah will come. And when the Messiah comes, the dead will rise from their graves. So opposite this place, on the ancient Mount of Olives, for centuries Jews have made their final resting place. From the tombs, they will rise when the gates of mercy are finally opened for the Messiah. Jerusalem, a city of faces and faith, of creativity and belief, of the very old and the very new.
Hello.
Island amidst this bustle is Mea Shearim, the most religious of Jerusalem's Jewish neighborhoods, where life from birth to death is devoted to God through study and prayer. Atop one of the hilltops of Jerusalem is this strange domed building, the Shrine of the Book. Inside, in its center, a tree-like form symbolizes the tree of life, and it's surrounded by a glass case containing 2,000-year-old Hebrew scrolls, the oldest in the world, found in the Judean desert. And in its center, a vision, Isaiah's prophecy. In the last days, the mountain of the Lord's temple will be established as chief among the mountains. It will be raised above the hills, and all nations will stream to it. At the city's edge, the Judean desert, where the prophets went for inspiration, home for the Bedouin and the stones, the sand and the wind. It's a barren landscape that leads to the lowest place on the face of the earth, the Dead Sea. Along the shores, from mountaintops below sea level, one can peer into the caves and discover a 2,000-year-old ghost town where the Jewish hermits, known as Essenes, escaped from Roman-occupied Jerusalem. They lived in the desert, and they wrote their scrolls, hiding them in clay jars stashed in the Qumran caves, to be known 2,000 years later as the Dead Sea Scrolls. North of the Dead Sea is the city of Jericho, the oldest continually inhabited city in the world, an oasis of sparkling colors in the pale, dry light of the Jordan Valley. Here in the bowels of this ancient town are the remains of a city 6,000 years old, perhaps the remains of the very walls that Joshua made to tumble down. Jericho's dry climate and warm sun made it the natural winter resort for the wealthy citizens of Jerusalem. Kings built winter palaces, like this Umayyan palace of the 7th century, where King Hisham brought his court. And here, beyond this grove, beneath this clay-walled house, is a mosaic floor from a 6th century synagogue. The Hebrew inscription wishes what has long been the desire of all, peace unto Israel.
A charming, coolly inviting beauty spot beckons the visitor out of the intense glaring heat, the Ein Gedi Nature Reserve. In its center, the stream of David flows through a number of waterfalls. Its name derives from the Bible story in Samuel 1, verse 24, where the young David flees from King Saul's anger. And in one of the caves where the king is sleeping, having followed him, David cuts off a piece of the king's robe, saying, "I will not put forth mine hand against my Lord, for he is the Lord anointed." The Ein Gedi Reserve is home to curious mountain goats and rock hyrax. A cool and refreshing spot on the outskirts of the desert. Here, at the lowest place on Earth, are the salt mushrooms of the Dead Sea, about 400 meters below sea level. The Jordan River ends its course here. The heat and dryness cause a lot of the water to evaporate, so that the salt either sinks or grows into these strange mushroom-like formations. These salts have many uses, and the Dead Sea Works processes them for fertilizers, agriculture, and for use as important raw materials in the photographic, pharmaceutical, and armaments industries. The Dead Sea has many spa hotels along its shores, and there's nothing like its famous black mud for soothing painful joints and easing skin conditions. Or just relax in the sea which won't let you sink. And on the terraced cliffs, climbers snake their way down to mysterious canyons. Voices of excited children fill the air north of the Dead Sea in the Adventure Water Park. And perched on the plateau looking out over the water is Kibbutz Ein Gedi. This kibbutz has become a symbol of unity, the joining of forces in the struggle for harmony between man and the desert around him. This united society embraces the values of education and the attempt to develop unique agricultural technologies for desert conditions, raising its children to know and befriend nature. In the evenings, they come together in the communal dining room to meet and talk. A society that bridges generations, a feeling of belonging and togetherness in the embrace of the desert.
It's more than a rock and more than another tourist site. It's a symbol of perseverance, of faith in adversity, of the independence of the Jewish people. Masada. Here, Herod built a palace that was an impregnable fortress. Here, zealot fighters for Jewish independence made a last stand against the enemy. Here, the Romans built their camps to lay siege. Here, 2,000 years later, one sees the huge stone and sand ramp the Romans built to climb the mountain to invade the fortress where a few hundred Jews were to choose death over slavery. And here in this synagogue, they threw the lots that provided their faith. Today, the courage of Masada's defenders serves as inspiration for youngsters about to become bar mitzvah.
And for people all over the world, it symbolizes courage and a yearning for freedom. Masada shall not fall again.
Heading south now on the road through Israel's Wild West. Many a Hollywood Western has been made in these canyons, on top of these mesas, and through these valleys. This is Israel's Negev, the eastern desert of the Great Triangle that makes up Israel's south.
Here lie the vast stretches of Timna Park, where nature has fashioned the rock into breathtakingly beautiful sculptures, and where you can tour by jeep, camel, dune buggy or motorbike. Solomon's lofty pillars, and at their feet the ancient copper mines that may have been King Solomon's. Mines were discovered next to the pillars from the time of the pharaohs, containing fabulous jewels and effigies of the Egyptian goddess Hathor, goddess of the mines, worshipped here at Timna. Timna Park, the colossal gateway to the city of Eilat. Eilat, the idyllic meeting place of steep red cliffs, warm, caressing air, and refreshing water. Eilat, there's nothing like it in the world. It's a city of fun, entertainment, and sheer delight. The beauty of Eilat lies both above and below the water. A magical world reveals itself in the depths. Friendliest mammal in the world below the surface of the sea, the dolphin, friend to the children swimming along with it, and friend to the whole family watching its smiling antics in the magical dolphin reef. A thrilling journey down to the coral reefs, a world of peace and tranquility, and home to the most beautiful fish in the world. deeper into the depths, in the underwater observatory from which one can watch life in the Red Sea. How beautiful are God's creatures. And how beautiful are Eilat's hotels, and what a wide range of entertainment activities for the perfect holiday. Today, Eilat and its neighboring city Aqaba have come together on the path of peace.
Not far north of Eilat, on the way back to the center of the country through the Negev plains, a remarkable wildlife preserve has been created. Called the High Bar. It's a place where all the animals mentioned in the Bible are being brought to live in the open, in their natural habitat.
Continuing our way north, we are compelled to stop at another rare and captivating spot, the observation point of Mitzpe Ramon, another of nature's miracles, one of the most perfect craters in the world. Originally Mount Ramon, over time it gradually became eroded until the mountain gave way to the crater, which has revealed things from the beginning of time itself. Here one can study natural phenomena in utter peace and tranquility, disturbed only occasionally by visitors by day and desert animals by night. Today, the Ramon crater is well marked for jeep tours and hikers, and seminars are held at the observation point to learn its secrets.
Hey, no! Give me some more! Come on, sorry. Piggy, you're Piggy, Piggy. I want to touch her.
Alpacas have been brought over from China and Tibet to be bred here in Mitzpe Ramon for their fine wool. Isn't it wonderful that these rare animals have found a home here? Who do you think is the more curious?
Stand in line. Oh my God, look how much fur, guys. So delicious. Can I have a sweater for you? Oh my God.
The desert has long inspired mankind. Moses, leading the children of Israel out of Egypt, heard God's call in the huge empty spaces of the desert. And in modern times, a new great leader of the Jewish people found his inspiration in the desert as well. David Ben-Gurion and his wife Paula are buried here in kibbutz Sde Boker, overlooking the Negev desert he believed could be made to bloom. It was in this humble cabin at kibbutz Sde Boker that Ben-Gurion retired as his final act of leadership. Here at kibbutz Sde Boker, he wrote his books, worked, like all the kibbutzniks, as a shepherd. Ben-Gurion inspired many young Jews to come to the desert and make it bloom. They worked hard, finding water far below the surface of the land, learning to use the water efficiently, planting vineyards, almond groves, and pomegranates, fulfilling the prophecy of Isaiah that the desert and the parched land would once again rejoice and blossom.
The northern Negev is the land of the camel, whose origins lie in the great desert of Saudi Arabia. The camel probably arrived in Israel by way of the ancient perfume route, along which the perfumes and spices of eastern Arabia were transported through Petra in Jordan and the port of Alexandria in Egypt to make their name in the perfume markets of medieval Europe. One of the landmarks along the route is the fortress of Avdat, probably named after King Avdat, the beloved king of the Nabateans who ruled in the 1st century BCE. The Nabateans were probably Arab tribes who had arrived in the region in the 1st century. Originally robbers and bandits, they became merchants and farmers, plying their trade across Israel from east to west, carrying perfumes and cinnamon to sweeten the lives of the Europeans. Many remains of Nabatean agriculture have been found in Israel. It was an agriculture skilled in utilizing the little water available in the desert. This kingdom later became assimilated into the Byzantine and Christian cultures that entered the region, and all that survives of it today are such magnificent relics as the Avdat, Shifta and Mamshit fortresses, and the beautiful city of Petra across the Arava Valley. This is the city of Beersheba, named by Abraham to commemorate his pledge for peaceful coexistence with the local people as they stood with their flocks by the well. Today it is the capital of the Negev and home to a university dedicated to researching desert life, where impressive achievements in desert agriculture have been attained, and which offers aid and assistance to many developing countries. Once a week, all the Bedouin tribes in the northern Negev gather at this colourful market, packed with agricultural produce, food and handicrafts. Sheep and goats change hands amidst clouds of cigarette smoke wafting from stern, gnarled faces that display no emotion, reflecting the desert which is their home. The market displays many items made from camel and sheepskin, and everywhere the inevitable coffee pots are brewing to while away the time in reflection or in telling the tales of the desert. There is one place where time stood still about 1200 years ago, Susia, the ancient Hebrew community south of the city of Hebron. Susia was a large city that continued to thrive for a long period after the temple was destroyed. This beautiful synagogue was built on top of the hill, according to the dictates of the Torah. The longing for the temple in Jerusalem is expressed in its mosaics. Here is the Ark of the Covenant with the two seven-branched candelabras or menorah alongside it. About 10,000 people lived in the city, in houses and caves bearing the symbol of the menorah at the entrance. This was probably a public cave. Perhaps it was here that the elected officials of the town gathered for all their meetings. Why was the city abandoned 1,200 years ago? No one knows. The riddle of Susia has never been solved. All the southern Judean mountains are strewn with caves. The unique geological structure of soft chalk with its shell of hard soil created the bell cave formations at Marisha and Bet Govrin. Here, the Jewish rebels under Roman rule found refuge, and here grew the juiciest grapes and dates in all of ancient Israel. Beit Govrin, called Albatropolis by the Romans, was granted a special status of freedom for all of its residents. Wall paintings have been found in these caves, as well as inscriptions and remnants of oil presses and ancient dovecotes, columbaria, used to breed the doves for food. Strange mountain with an impressive palace at its center, north of Bethlehem and southeast of Jerusalem. This is Herodion, built in the 1st century BCE by the great Herod as his leisure complex next to the capital, Jerusalem. He filled it with palaces and built an artificial mountain to surround them. This is where Herod chose to be buried, but his grave has never been found.
Northwards, through the Judean mountains that Abraham crossed, we reach a valley in a town called Hebron. Behind these mammoth walls, Jews and Muslims pray, for inside is the cave, the tomb of the patriarchs. Here, Abraham and his wife Sarah, Isaac and his wife Rebekah, and Jacob and his wife Leah are buried. Herod built the monument, modeling it after the great temple in Jerusalem. Further north, a few minutes south of Jerusalem, is Bethlehem, surrounded by shepherds' fields, where a young boy named David first learned 3,000 years ago how to lead a people. That young shepherd became King David, and 1,000 years later, another leader was born here, in a manger over which a church was built, and to which millions of Christian pilgrims have made their way over the years. Bethlehem, a city of peace and prayers. Just outside of town, in a small chapel, Jewish women come to pray beside the tomb of Rachel the matriarch, Jacob's wife. They pray for fertility and for the safety of their children. Silent prayers to the mother of the children, Rachel. As a pearl in a crown, so sits Jerusalem at the top of all the hills of Judea. Jerusalem, the eternal capital of Israel. Since the beginning of the century, the city has sprung from the hilltops into a unique landscape of neighborhoods, where Jews from every corner of the world have found in Jerusalem a home.
Jerusalem the Golden is what this most beloved city is called. Towards dawn, the narrow alleyways become filled with worshippers, streaming towards the Wailing or Western Wall. The Hebrew University, stretching towards the Judean desert, is full of students thirsting for knowledge. kindergarten children look out at the world, and their drawings ask for peace. Jerusalem, desert, walls and golden stones, a city embraced by 3 religions and beloved by people all over the world. And the city teems with people from all walks of life. The markets offer the handicrafts of different Israeli cultures and their traditions. And this tot is getting his first yarmulke, or skull cap. At the Israel Museum, sculptures stand out against the rising sun. Its showcases hold a wealth of the earth's treasures. The roots of our culture are gathered in marble structures, the Israel Museum. A menorah flutters above a building on a hill. Hadassah Hospital, with its many wards, has international prestige. And as a tribute to the saving of life, the artist Marc Chagall designed the windows of this modest synagogue. Stained glass windows depict the blessing of Jacob the father to his sons, Reuven, Shimon, Levi, Yehuda, Dan, Naphtali, Gad, Asher, Issachar, Binyamin, Yosef, Ephraim, and Manasseh. And these are the stories of the 12 tribes, the sons of Israel. And this is the story of the people of Israel. The Liberty Bell Park, a favorite with the kids, and the children's petting zoo, where you can meet and even play with the animals. And the air-conditioned mall where you can buy the latest fashions. Thousands of years spread out before you when you come to Jerusalem. The cantor's voice and an eternal flame, an everlasting memorial to the victims of the Holocaust. Yad Vashem, a must for everyone, to feel and share the experience and draw close to one another, to remember and never to forget. And the names carved in stone cry out silently and are with you forever. And the menorah that was stolen by foreign invaders 2,000 years ago is finally returned to its true home by a young nation renewing its youth. Opposite the Knesset building, where the elected government of Israel meets, stands another menorah, reminding us of the ray of light that shone forth and led the people of Israel to end their exile and return to their ancient new homeland. And on national holidays, the fireworks explode overhead, above the wall, in glorious light, in pomp and splendor, and with a blessing for peace for the whole world, from Jerusalem. Tel Aviv, Israel's bustling metropolis, the city that never sleeps. Tel Aviv might be the oldest city in modern Israel, but it has a young and beautiful face and is constantly rejuvenating itself. This is the city that welcomes you upon your arrival in Israel, bordered on the west by the sea, so that all its residents appear to be basking on the seashore. Luxurious hotels, their windows facing the sea. And from the Opera Tower, Tel Aviv's newest piazza, we see the Mediterranean in all its glory.
It's the first Hebrew city in 2,000 years, but its pace is international. And it's a city in which names from history have meaning, for it was along these streets that history was made. For it's a city in which some of the founders are still alive, able to remember from their youth the people behind the names on the street signs, able to reminisce about the days when Israel's great metropolitan center was only a long, deserted beach. It started on yellow sand dunes. In the summer of 1906, a group of pioneers stood on the beach and wrote on seashells the names of the people and the lots of property they would build upon. That's how the first houses in Tel Aviv began. The newcomers brought their architectural styles, but combined the gables of Europe with the arches of Turkey, the porches of Germany with the domes of Jaffa, the pillars of Italy with the mosaic of Islam. They built a city. It started small, but the streets grew long, away from the sea. And when the time finally came, the dreams of the Jewish people came true. The Jewish state was declared in Tel Aviv on the 15th of May, 1948. The celebration spilled into the streets, and the Jews poured into Israel from all over the world, received with open arms, as if it were a family reunion.
Sea, sport, and the Archon River, which was once Tel Aviv's northern border and is now almost in the city center. A culture that never stops. Tel Aviv's dance and theater complex, the Suzanne Delal Center. And all around the city flourishes, with the business and commercial center facing the sea, a center of communications emanating from this complex of glass and steel.
At the Carmel Market, all the fruits and vegetables of the country are on sale, and you can get them wholesale. A few steps from the aroma of the market is the Yemenite Quarter, where the pita bread is still made the old-fashioned way. And when a bride gets married, she wears 4,000 years of Jewish culture in her gown, continuing traditions that can be traced directly back to the Bible. All our people's traditions can be seen at the Tel Aviv University campus in a unique museum, unlike any other in the world, called Beit HaTfutzot, the Diaspora Museum. Here, the history of the exile can be seen and touched. Here, children learn about the history of their people, about the prayers and traditions that kept the people alive, even when they were without a land of their own. And they learn about the synagogues the Jews built wherever they went to pray in, to mourn in, and to celebrate in. They learn about the people of Israel, dispersed over the globe, and yet held together by the same faith. Here in the museum, films can be seen showing the way Jews lived then in the shtetls of Europe or the villages of India. And when the pogroms came, the Jews packed their bags, heading for a distant land that they only knew of through the Bible. A long way from fiddlers on the rooftops were the palm trees and beaches of the land of Israel.
As the sun sets, the fishermen set sail on the tranquil evening sea. The pace of the city slows. Now is the time for leisure and entertainment at cafes or the amusement park, and the lights twinkle as far as the eye can see in the city that refuses to sleep. The city that gave birth to Tel Aviv, Jaffa, south of Tel Aviv. It is first mentioned in the Bible. The prophet Jonah was swallowed by the whale for refusing to carry out his mission from Jaffa port. Jaffa of today, with its galleries filled with treasures drawn from the sea, collector's items and contemporary art. The stone houses, the smell of the sea and the sun setting among the palm trees make Jaffa the most romantic spot in Israel. Couples make their way here in the evening, surrendering to the photographer's camera beneath the sculpture of Jacob's dream and the sacrifice of Isaac. And in the distance we hear voices rising from the Church of St. Peter, commemorating the miracle of the resurrection of Tabitha. Jaffa, with Andromeda's rock and the finest of fish restaurants. Jaffa, there is nowhere more beautiful at night. We continue northwards from Jaffa along the coastline, amid the scent of citrus groves, to Caesarea. The ancient port and the Roman amphitheatre are but two of the sites that attest to the former glory of Caesarea, gift of King Herod to his Roman benefactors. We can see the stone fortifications and a train-like aqueduct that brought water from far-off springs to the many fountains in the city, where the Romans found luxury and pleasure. Today, the city is surrounded by golf courses, and its lush green lawns highlight the beauty of its antiquities. We continue northwards along the Sharon coastal plain to Haifa. A city kissed by the sea, Haifa is Israel's second largest port. Goods are exported from its quays, and travelers from all over the world arrive here. This is a meeting place for many cultures. With its museums of marine treasures and paintings of Haifa, an annual dance festival, sporting events, and even the unique Haifa-style falafel, Haifa is a city of outdoor entertainment. On the slope we see a golden dome, like a Hellenistic temple, with magnificent gardens. This is the world center of the Baha'i faith, who found refuge in Haifa and adorned its mountain slopes. The city is also an ancient model of peaceful coexistence of three faiths: Muslim, Christian, and the many different ethnic Jewish communities. The city is full of sites sacred to all three religions. Haifa, with its modern industrial parks, is also a center for important high-tech research and development. The city facing the bay, Haifa. And ever northwards, rounding Haifa Bay, we reach Akko. Akko originated in the time of the pharaohs in the 15th century BCE and is today one of Israel's most charming fishing ports. Towering above the city is the cupola of the El Jazar Mosque, named after the governor who withstood Napoleon's attack in the 18th century. He was also responsible for renovating the city walls after the Crusaders. Akko, where you can enjoy a fascinating stroll along 3,500 years of history. Two mountains hug the shoreline in Israel, Mount Carmel and Rosh Hanikra. Rosh Hanikra is one of the gateways into Lebanon. The Elephant's Foot is situated by the sea, a chalky cliff under which lie crevices formed in the struggle between the waves and the soft limestone. Waves from the Mediterranean penetrate the crevices, creating dazzling multicolored bursts of spray for the pleasure of the spectator. Enveloped by carpets of flowers, Lake Kinneret and magical waterfalls, the Galilee extends over the northern region of Israel and is its greenest area. And above the dales and valleys rises a mountain wreathed in mist, Mount Hermon, the main source of Israel's water. Mount Hermon towers 2,800 meters above sea level and in the winter is covered with glistening snow, affording visiting skiers endless enjoyment. Below the mountain, the Dan River enters the valley on the Lebanese border. The Dan, the Hasbani and Hermon rivers are the three rivers that feed the Jordan River, which flows from Mount Hermon via Lake Kinneret down to the Dead Sea. Banias is the Arabic name for the Roman city of Paneas, after the god Pan, god of shepherds and water springs. Sunken recesses bearing Greek inscriptions can be seen on the mountain cliff that conceals the cave from where the water rushes out. There is also evidence of the existence of a Jewish community called the State of Dan. In the course of time, this strip of land became the dwelling place of the Druze, the courageous people of the mountain. The difference in altitude between Mount Hermon at 2,800 meters above sea level and Lake Kinneret at 200 meters below sea level causes the water to tumble down, creating incredibly beautiful waterfalls and canyons. A sailboat appears as if by magic, like the Egyptian feluccas, making its way from Tiberias, the capital of the Galilee, to the northern shore of the Kinneret, and the sailors know that they can rely on the wind to guide them. Here on this shore stands the ruins of Jewish communities which continued to exist in the Galilee even after the temple was destroyed. Kfar Nahum, or Capernaum, with its large synagogue and its stone tablets, the Star of David, the temple menorah, and wagon for the Ark of the Covenant. Many of the Kinneret's residents are fishermen, now as then, and many traditions have been built up around the fisherman's way of life. A picturesque church, Tabcha, nestles on a hill slope with ancient mosaics of peacocks, ducks and lotus flowers, including a mosaic depicting the miracle of the loaves and fishes. Lake Kinneret teems with tradition, legends, and a yearning for peace and tranquility. As we pray, renew our days as of old. South of the lake, the Jordan River continues on its course down to the Dead Sea. The Christian faithful go down to Yardenit to be baptized in the gentle waves of the River Jordan. The Jordan is beloved and considered holy, and its message has reached across the globe. Perched on one of the hills, a wooden house looks down over the Galilee. One can stop here to listen to piano recitals against the backdrop of breathtaking views. Freshly baked dark brown country bread, a selection of white and yellow cheeses and homemade wine. And the best of the old songs to warm the heart, Ein Kamonim. There is a pita baking tradition in this ancient village of Pekin, where smiling Druze offer their timeless hospitality. Spread a little labneh and hyssop for the best taste in the world. This is the cemetery on the shores of Lake Kinneret, where many visitors come to see the graves of the fathers of Zionism, names like Burl Katzenelson and the poetess Rachel. The character of the Hebrew state was forged according to the vision, poetry, and deeds of these great personages. A book of poetry has been placed by the grave of the poetess Rachel, perused by many visitors who read its message of longing for the land of the fathers, yearning for the return to the land and its redemption, to be a shepherdess in the land of Israel. Rachel's cruel destiny was that her illness forced her to leave her beloved Kinneret. And when the pioneers came to the Galilee, they built their farms and dug wells. This is the farm of the Dubrovin family, who arrived at the turn of the century at the foothills by the Hula Lake, which they'd heard in Russia was a beautiful lake with a myriad of birds. The family succumbed to malaria one by one, but still would not leave this place. Today, their grandchildren live here, and the farm has been restored as a site where the visitor can truly experience what it meant to be a pioneer. Moonlight chamber music concerts are held here during the summer. The town of Rosh Pina is the mother of the Galilee settlements. It was built by people from Tzfat who rejected charity and wanted to work their own land. Their lives were not easy, and many died in the struggle. But the town held on. And, if you try hard, you can still see the figures of the pioneers. Many of the original houses are still standing. There is yet another kind of pioneer in the Galilee. For many years, this inn, Dered HaGalil, stood alone on the hillside, facing the hostile Syrian border. But its perseverance paid off, and today this is one of the most successful horse ranches in Israel, as well as a restaurant serving delicious country food. Tiberias, capital of the Galilee. Mountains encircling the Kinneret, springs of spa water, graves of ancient holy mystics, luxurious hotels, and non-stop entertainment. Tiberias began as a fishing village on the shores of the Kinneret and was built in 17 to 22 CE by the son of King Herod as a gift for his benefactor, the Emperor Tiberius. Of its healing waters quickly spread throughout the Roman Empire, and it was here that many Roman dignitaries found a cure for their pain and entertainment for their pleasure. Tiberias Springs, now as always. These are the mosaics of the Wheel of the Zodiac, found on the floor of the synagogue, which was probably built at the time of the Sanhedrin in Tiberias in the 4th century BCE. According to tradition, this is the grave of the Tanaik Rabbi Meir, the miracle worker, one of the greatest sages of the Mishnah. Tradition holds that he saved the lives of the residents of Tiberias from the Romans by working miracles. There is no more beautiful spot than Mount Berenike, where King Herod Antipas' fortress was erected to look out over Lake Kinneret and Tiberias, the capital. And there is no better way to get the taste of the Kinneret's waters than by swimming in them or sailing on them.
One highlight of the cruise is a special treat for the kids, a water amusement park known as the Luna Gal, full of slides and pools.
Kinneret may be small, but its fame is worldwide, and it attracts people from throughout the world who come to discover its mysteries. Sheaves of wheat in the Jezreel Valley, the prehistoric valley that bridged the ancient kingdoms of Asia and Africa. Megiddo, the city of King Solomon's horses, has been witness to many wars between Egypt and Assyria in the valley below. Megiddo is a city of ritual, with its giant Canaanite temple and the water system that brings water from an outside spring into the city. According to Christian tradition, this is where the final battle of Gog and Magog will be waged. Megiddo, or Armageddon, where good will triumph over evil. Waterfalls and cool ponds ideal for bathing. The Sachne. A reconstructed flour mill has been set up here, powered by the water streams. And a city that is slowly emerging from out of the earth, Bet Shean of the Roman kingdom, next to the modern Bet Shean. Here is the spacious amphitheatre and rows of columns in stone relief. Bet Shean is one of the great cities of ancient times, with Egyptian, Greek and Roman remains. It's also famous for its magnificent mosaics that are still being found in archaeological excavations from Roman and Byzantine times. Israel has always formed a bridge between Asia and Africa, and many commercial routes have cut across it. The mountain peaks have always been her watchtowers. This is the fortress of Nimrod, one of the chain of fortresses that the Crusaders built to protect these roads. The victorious Saladin and his warriors, by conquering the mountaintop fortresses, found their way clear to go on and conquer Jerusalem. This octagonal church stands atop Mount Beatitude, commemorating Jesus' Sermon on the Mount. And this church on Mount Tabor overlooking the Jezreel Valley is the Church of the Transfiguration. On top of another hill in western Galilee lies the city of Tzfat, city of mystery and the Kabbalah, standing out in its pristine whiteness. A little higher up, in a hidden valley in the Golan next to the city of Katzrin, are the remains of a wall covered with flowers. This is the city of Gamla, whose conquest enabled the Romans to conquer Jerusalem in the 1st century. We come now to a city in the valley with a huge church at its centre. This is Nazareth. Nearby, with its large amphitheatre, carriage paths and beautiful mosaic basins, is the town of Tzipori, the site of a Jewish community and the seat of the Sanhedrin in the 4th century. As we continue northwards, we encounter the facade of a splendid synagogue, Baram. Baram was a Jewish settlement in the days of the Mishnah and Talmud in the 3rd century BCE. We can see the rare beauty of the bas-reliefs depicting scenes from nature. In the northern Galilee, the finger-like projection of land was formed as a result of the international agreements regarding Israel's borders. Below gushes the oven waterfall, the Tanur. The name originated from the chimney shape in which the water falls, similar to that of the clay oven the Arabs use. This is the cool, sweet water of the Galilee, ensuring that there will never be a shortage of shady, cool and tranquil places. And on top of the hill is the northern town of Metula. Army trucks, farmers bringing messages of peace, helicopters whirling overhead. A scene from a movie? Not at all. It's only to remind you that Israel is squeezed between hostile neighbors who are slowly coming together in the quest for peace. This is Lebanon's Good Fence Gate, preserved forever as the first step on the path to peace.
Israel is about 300 miles long and an average of 50 miles wide, making it about 15,000 square miles big, or actually little. Its colors change in every bend of the road, and its people, no matter how old the history of the land, are always young. Without much in the way of natural resources, Israelis have had to stretch their imagination to bring out from the difficult land such wonderful fruits as the orange known all over the world.
All that we have seen so far is entrusted with much love to the youthful hands of the Israel Defense Force soldiers. They are all our children, youngsters who have only just left home, and already the signs of this heavy responsibility can be seen etched on their young foreheads. And that same girl or boy is already a future messenger of the state, pushing forward into the 21st century in technology for times of peace. Every year, new settlements are established in Israel, and the quality of life is constantly improving. Friends and acquaintances settle down together. The modern communal settlements offer a high standard of education and a high-quality environment. They instill a love of nature and provide a wealth of communal activities. Such settlements can be found throughout the country. A people returning to its land. And almost every year the gates open to yet another community from the diaspora, and the children of Israel come home. And again the lost and the missing from the tribes of Jacob return from where they've been scattered and gather together in Israel. The exile is ending, the return to Zion continues, and the 20th century watches the miracle in wonder.
And a man blesses the new day, and wearing his work clothes, he ties the leather straps of the tefillin and prays for peace for him and all Israel. His lips move as he says the prayer silently, and alongside him is the weapon he hopes he'll never have to use. And by the sweat of his brow he sows the land, so that in joy he can reap. The first fruits he devotes to God. It's an ancient people in an ancient land, yet a new generation has returned to its sources, and the miracle has come alive. This is Israel, its people, its landscapes, and its history. A prophecy and a dream that came true. In the Promised Land, a new and modern Jewish state has been established. the only Jewish state in the world. Young faces of the young state in a country whose history is as old as human culture. Young people in a new, vibrant state, and their dream is eternal. Shalom, peace be unto you.
תרמיל, בוא איתי אל הגליל, בוא איתי ליום אביב, נהלך סביב סביב, כי השמש הזורחת בחניתה, ושוקעת באביב. כי השמש, כן השמש, כאן השמש, כאן השמש לא תחזיב. כי השמש, כן השמש, כאן השמש לא תחזיב, כאן השמש לא תחזיב, כאן השמש לא תחזיב. כל הלילי השמחות, תרצו שוב לאור הסוערת, טיפסנו עם כל הרוחות, אל פסגת החרמון הזוהרת, עם שחר הלילה נמלט, קובע העמק מאוד, לנזק האופן נבלט, גלבוע נושק לתבור, לו היית לידי, לו את כאן, לו את כאן, הייתי נוסך על כפיים, מעל ערפילים ערפילים וענן, לכתוב כוכבים בשמיים. בדרך לתבור הלכתי לבדי, מאחורי שמעתי קול פרסה. הפניתי את ראשי, ראיתי לידי, רוכב צעיר ישוב על גב סוסה. שאל לאן ילדה, עניתי להרים, והוא אותי על סוסתו הרים. שאל לאן ילדה, עניתי להרים, והוא אותי על סוסתו הרים. ומיד נגלה לי רז, מזה שבע משעול בארץ לבבי שבה. ומיד נגלה לי רז, מזה שבע משעול בארץ לבבי
ושוב צומח כאן בשמי הערב. הנה יד הים מעל התהומות, ושמש אדומה נושקת להחרב, את השדות המגדלים והחומות. ראיתי עיר עוטפת אור, והיא עולה בשלל צבעי הקשת, והיא נוגנת בי כנבל העשור. ראיתי עיר עוטפת אור, ראיתי עיר עוטפת אור, והיא עולה בשלל צבעי הקשת, והיא נוגנת בי כנבל העשור. ראיתי עיר עוטפת אור.
דרגות של בניינים ואבן מסותתת, וברחובות הם יד שלוות מוסר, ומשאבים רעננים, צמרת מרטטת, וצחוק בחצרות בינות חבלי כביסה. זאת ירושלים של עמי החושך, זאת ירושלים הבנויה לתלפיות, זאת ירושלים של עמי החושך, זאת ירושלים הבנויה לתלפיות.
ציון תמתי, ציון חרדתי, לך נפשי מרחוק מיד. תשכח ימיני אם אשכח את יפתי, אל תקרבון קרבי עלי תיהר. ציון תמתי, ציון חרדתי, לך נפשי מרחוק מיד. תשכח ימיני אם אשכח את יפתי, אל תקרבון קרבי עלי תיהר.
ישנם ימים ללא מרגוע, במלוא אמצע לי נחמה, ומוכרחה אני לנגוע בעשבים באדמה, לפסוע באותה הדרך בתוך פריחת הקרקומים, ולהיות כל כך אחרת, ולברוח ערב הגשמים. רק תפילה אשא אלי אלי, שהשמש תבוא עליי, ותראה לי שוב את משעוליי. אלי אלי, רק תפילה אשא, שהשמש תבוא עליי, ותיקח אותי אל המסע. יש מי שגר בצריף רעוע, יש מי שוכן בתוך ארמון, שלישי יש לו שיכון טבוע, ורביעי מדור דרכון. אך מה יש כאן להתווכח? מה יש שיכון דומה לזה? גם לא שילמנו דמי מפתח, ועוד ביקשו שלא נצא. יא משלתי ותשאל לי ללא קירות. יא מתלבטי וכוכבים בלי מנורות.
לך מדבר הדרכים יובילו, תהיתם בלכתי אל המדבר. שוב נח חזור לצוקים יריעו, שמש גדולה של אור עוד תזרח עלינו למדבר. ארץ לא מים, כה עד אדמתי שבנו אליי למדבר. ארץ לא מים, כה עד אדמתי שבנו אליי. ארץ מלוכה רוח ודם, הלוחמים חזרו תוך כסר למדבר. ארץ לא מים, כה עד אדמתי שבנו וחרוט, האדמה נצעיר בלהט שמש, ואבק מחניק יעוף ברור, אך אין גדי לא תסבול בכבש, בה ישלוט אבן ירוק וחור. אין גדי, מהים כי צמא